But it was also really fun to revisit Jackson and Lee with these 4 new paintings, the Life magazine, which really helped him make his career and start the movement. And try to, he would always say dripping was a means to an end. And so he was really trying to create those mindscapes and try to, penetrate through the drips to find those visual other worlds that were happening. That was a satiric article, was making fun of him, but obviously it transcended the satire, and he became an historic figure even in his own lifetime.
I've known Keith, I don't know, for a long time. I've always really admired his work and have thought he's a terrific painter. I have some of his paintings. And I just think this project of the American Dream is so interesting and appropriate and kind of on the money, because it really is about the present and the past and how they conflated and how they differ. I mean, the Rascals right here, as you may know, is a very famous photograph that he took it from. I think he took all of these actually from photographs, right?
That's right.
So, so they're all appropriated essentially from photographs. And this was, I remember this one, from my youth, being a young artist. I mean, they were all guys. There's one woman, where is she? You missed her?
Yeah, no, Hedda Stern, right up there.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah.
Those are the days, that was before, who wrote that article? I always forget, it was a great article. Why are there no great women artists?
Oh, right, Linda Nochlin.
That changed things, but this was before then, so they're all guys. I see Clifford Still, I see Mark Rothko, Barnett Newman, what's his name? The critic. Is Howard Rosenberg in there?
No, Rosenberg and Greenberg aren't there, but Basios is in there.
That one on the left is, what's his name?
De Kooning's on
Sitting
the top.
Down.
Oh, Sitting Down, Marcarelli? No.
Franz Klein? That's what I thought.
Yeah. Theodore Stamas, thank you.
It's interesting how they shuffled out in terms of what ended up happening to their different reputation. Who's the one sitting down with the little bow tie? He's
Jimmy Ernst, right. I know that, Motherwell's the guy, the second to the left on the right-hand side. Rothko's in the front. Clifford Still's the guy going like this. Hedda Stern, whose husband was Saul Steinberg, which I think is so cool, is the woman, obviously. Pollock, Barnett Newman, and de Kooning. And then the other ones are lesser known, sadly.
Well, what's interesting about this group of artists, and probably the reason they are getting together, is to discuss the issues in the contemporary art world at that time, which for them, who I think mostly were refugees from Europe after the war, and started in one way or another to break away from the Cubist and European traditions of painting. They wanted something alive, contemporary, American, which for them had to do with inventiveness, risk, freedom. Now we look back, and it might be like a quaint idea now, but then it really was the American dream.
Yeah.
The New World meant something. New York meant a lot. I mean, they all came to New York, right?
Yeah, they were all working on the WPA together, and they were all friends and really communing and so on, but they were doing figurative narrative painting to help the proletariat raise themselves up by their own
Well, they were getting
bootstrap.
paid, but they got paid by the government during the war so that they could live.
Right.
I don't think the government now would be interested in how artists live.
Unfortunately not. But they really did want to invent their own new vernacular and really, start a whole movement. And that's part of what, to me, is so
And they were
appealing,
looking for a new language, new languages. And they were looking particularly for a language that I'm still interested in, which is the modernist language of interconnectedness and oneness with something bigger than you. So it had a spiritual kind of orientation to it, like Barnett Newman, the zip, the stripe. It wasn't a stripe. It had to do with the universality of feeling. And he talked about that. And of course, Rothko, the kind of hovering, identity and fog of consciousness and just the power of singularity as opposed to, all the stuff that had gone on. I think they wanted to kind of simplify the language and make it more radical at the same time.
I think after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they didn't want to do figurative narrative painting anymore. They were like, I feel this, and they go, oh. I also think when you look at Cézanne and you go up closer and you look at Cubism and you go up closer, then you start getting abstract expressionism, and they also love Jung and Freud, but thinking about the Jungian unconscious.
And that's probably what they're talking about at this meeting. Those were the intellectuals and the philosophers and the psychologists I know that were interested in Freud. This is 1949, right?
Well, yeah, and I think
not your painting.
No,
photograph.
Well, that was so appealing to me because these were adults. Many of them didn't have their first shows until they were in their 40s or 50s. So
like
they were
Barnett Newman had his first show early 40s, right?
Yeah. And they were duking it out over aesthetics, over cheap coffee and beer. They had their own club in the studio, and
And they used to get into fights.
Oh, of course. And they all dated each other. They all danced together after they were fighting.
That was at the Cedar Bar on 10th Street.
Yeah.
A university place.
Yeah. I used to go there to where it moved as a pilgrimage. But,
and this painting, there's a photograph that I'm sure was taken at the New York Studio School.
Yeah.
Because that's where they used to go meet. There's a big meeting room when you walk in.
They were protesting the Met, which wasn't putting any of them or abstract painting in their show. And so they're thinking about what their name would be, and also to protest the Met, they signed a petition. Barnett Newman called this house, and Lee Krasner answered the phone. They made small talk, but then Barney said, "Is Jackson available?" And Lee heard Jackson say, "Yes, okay, I'll do it, no problem." Hung up the phone, and Lee said, "What was that about?" And Barnett Newman didn't invite her to sign the petition with them, which was sad. So, but it was a letter to the New York Times. It made a big stink. Nina Lean, who was famous for photographing animals, was then commissioned to photograph this picture of these animals.
Was it published in the Times?
It was published in Life magazine, and then this really helped to spur the moment. The only reason that Hedda Stern was there was that Betty Parsons was her dealer, and she insisted that Hedda would be there. But the group themselves loved women. Women were very much.
That's what I was thinking, because Hedda, of all the women artists who were working then, Hedda Stern certainly wasn't the most prominent.
No.
They could have put Joan Mitchell there.
Yeah, she didn't even think that she was an abstract expressionist. She was sort of resented being in this photo because that's ultimately what she came known for. But yeah, I read 9th Street Women, which I totally recommend for everybody to read, on audiobook when I was painting this, and also a lot of these other pictures. And I was hoping that was something political about doing a figurative painting of these macho guys. Actually, the resident before me, my friend Celeste, left a box of obviously unused tampons, but I painted the background with tampons with the pink paint. It's a good cheap brush.
The white or the pink? The pink.
The pink, exactly. Okay. Yeah, and I listened also. The music is all in the archives. I love method acting, and I love trying to get inside of these guys' heads. And so I was listening to their music when I was painting all these pictures and trying to bring them back to life.
They have that here.
Yeah, they have the playlists online. So I was listening to all these records, these great jazz recordings. Actually, you heard as you were coming in the Charlie Parker album that probably Pollock and Lee were actually playing. Their DNA is like on the vinyl.
Well, what's funny, I think the generation of artists that I know and have grown up with in New York basically come from these guys.
Yeah.
I mean, they were all gone by the time I was around, but just their idea, their sensitivity, their sensibility, their passion for trying to make something new, trying to even make something spiritual, that is about how you could connect with objects and how objects aren't just inert or representational or even narrative. I mean, a lot of them would talk against narrative and representational work because, that's all been done in Europe.
Yeah.
And just the break, I think, the rupture is like, like Mondrian came to New York.
Lee danced with him famously. Yeah, they would go to jazz concerts together and dance, yes.
I mean, he and then that started that exodus of artists who had to leave, because of the war.
And they were all learning from those guys and building upon them and like going really deep into that Jungian unconscious.
If you read their writing, some of it's so interesting. I'm writing about them because there was really no discussion about money.
No.
This is when it used to be an art world, not an art industry. And there was camaraderie. They went to each other's studios. They knew each other. They encouraged each other.
They helped install each other's shows.
I don't know how they made money, They probably had jobs, right?
Yeah, they had part-time jobs or just living piecemeal on whatever they could get from whatever meager sales they might have. But they were completely dedicated. So I'm a son of a psychoanalyst, so I have a penchant for the unconscious too, and I always want to bring those kind of feelings up. I call them iconscapes because I like the idea of these sort of, I always think if you dream, you would dream with like very simplified figures and forms, and we project like, oh, that's grandpa or something, but to bring those out but not illustrate them in figurative ways. But also with these, I'm hoping in micromanaged moments, there are unconscious things that are happening, just like if you're going into Mount St. Victoire or Cézanne and seeing things occur and try to bring the emotions and the spirits of these people to,
well, that's it, the emotions, it's like, even though the paintings are reduced, and like for instance, a color field. Yeah. There's there's emotional impact when you look at them.
I'm really into synesthesia, and I really feel like all these guys were very synesthetic in terms of how they were approaching painting, and hopefully what
it's
you're
above
getting
my pay grade. What is it?
Well, when you look at when one sense affects another sense, and so I'm sure we all have this where you see the word orange, but you see the picture of what orange color is in your mind's eye, and then
and a lot of other things you see,
right?
And when associations,
and when you're like living with a painting and really looking at it, it makes you feel a certain way or moves you in ways that's ineffable that you can't put into language. I think that's sort of where we are in a postmodernism or something. I know. For us, and I came out conceptually. I'm the tail of the boomers. I just turned 60 in May, but I felt like how these aren't like
May
photos
what?
is what's me about them. May 18th.
Okay.
May 18th. So I just turned 60. But
Happy birthday.
But I love. Thank you. I love all the pictures generation. Your neighbors with Cindy Sherman and Robert Longo and all those guys. But I feel like the next step is like, how can you penetrate the surface of the photo and bring something emotional out, something you can't put into words or categorize.
That's a very nice explanation of the pictures generation.
Thank you. Well, and I feel I'm in that legacy.
Well, I kind of got bored of it, but
yeah.
I mean, that's
what I think.
I kind of got tired of pictures in general, and postmodernism in particular.
Right. Well, I think
because I don't even think we got to modernism, and how could we're like kind of in the Middle Ages, really.
Well,
about it.
And after a while, as painters, I think beyond any concept that you're trying to bring to something, it's really about the meditation of painting and the feeling.
That's why I love them so much. Those are the people I hooked on to. When I went to NYU as undergraduate school. I wanted to be an artist, but I didn't yet have the courage to become an artist. So I went to General College there, and so somewhere after my first year, I said, oh, f- this. It's not a hobby. This is what I'm going to do. And you have to say, no matter what.
Yeah, right.
You know, I mean, I'm smart enough. I'm not going to like starve to death. Come on. I figured, who knew? I don't know. But
yeah, I went to Brown. Oh, go ahead. You finish.
Well, what I was saying is one of the first paintings at the Museum of Modern Art that I saw was Mark Rothko.
Oh, wow.
That I felt, I just couldn't believe the sensation that I had seeing this hovering, otherworldly kind of magnificence and the light that these objects are not just things. They have inner light that can affect you and move you and make you think about things. And then what was funny is Chuck Close happened to be one of my professors at NYU then. And he said to me, well, Ross, you do know that NYU is 5 blocks away from Soho. And there are living artists who are working now. And he gave me a list of galleries to go to. It's the first time I ever went to Soho.
Good for him.
Ever went to galleries. And there were only like 5. And it was very, I mean, no one talked about money then either.
No, I went to Brown. I was an undergrad. I was a studio art and semiotics major, and so I had theory.
So
I
you're
had fine
smart.
art. Well, I don't know about that, but I was also the cartooning kid on campus. I did the comic strips, I did the illustrations for everything, and I came to New York thinking I'd be a cartoonist for the New Yorker, but my first job was at Contemporanea, an art magazine that was good, and then at Robert Miller Gallery on 57th Street in 1989, which Chaim and Reed were the directors. They showed Lee Krasner. They said it was sad because everybody was always looking over Lee's shoulder for Jackson, but they also showed Joan Mitchell, who was still alive, who was cranky. You know, I remember
In France?
In France, and so they would have me draw cartoons to cheer Joan up. You know, she would call on the phone. She'd be like, "Hey, is Bob there?" And like, "Okay, Joan, hi." And I would, but anyway,
Did she ever thank you or send you something?
No, she was like a bitter alcoholic. But as you say, they were all alcoholics. They were all bitter because they don't want to be alcoholics anymore, and they can't stop.
And they're also so, you know, after 50 years of struggling, you get a little tired.
Yeah, of course.
You wonder, why am I doing this? I'm not getting anywhere.
Right.
But then they all got somewhere.
Right. Well,
It just takes time.
right.
And persistence. I always say it's all about persistence. You know, you have to be ready for the disappointment because everyone's going to feel it. And you have to have a little bit of a shell, let things bounce off, and just stay with yourself.
Right. Right, and I think one thing in terms of persistence, I was dropping off all these cartoons. I met Lee Lorenz, the then editor. I said, I dropped off my 100th cartoon to you today. And he said, well, it doesn't take 10 cartoons a week or 10,000 cartoons, but it helps. And I walked out with a heavy head thinking like, oh my gosh, I was interested in bringing up ideas aesthetically, like all comics are, but I wasn't interested in making people laugh. But also I just love the process of rendering, and I really got into the meditation of that, and I realized the reward of that meditation. So when I teach now, I try to teach that meditation. So
That's
hopefully
great.
they keep going through it.
When you're talking about rendering, are you talking about rendering from life or from pictures?
All of
Anything?
it. All of it.
Anything you could look at?
Yeah, I always think for me, all these images for me are talismans. I love Proust, you know, in remembrance of things past. He bites into a Madeleine, one of the French cookies, and sends them into this sort of reverie of memory. And for me, when and I think he said, or Manet said, the best thing that painters have are our memories. And so for me,
boy, I'm in big trouble there.
Well, for me, all these pictures.
I actually think it's the other way around.
Well, okay.
The less you remember, the freer you are. That's Zen mind.
Right.
It's like to try to start by emptying out everything that is there because it's just clutter.
Right. Well, I feel like as you're solving the puzzles of the picture in front of you, hopefully we're solving the pictures of the puzzles of our mind, and as the pieces come together, hopefully you come up with epiphanies like dreaming. But that's what you want, is that you get through all the bric-a-brac of rumination, and then you get into the flow. where you're just in that Zen-like world, where you're just feeling it and things happen. So,
Like for instance, I like my studio to be cleared and cleaned every day.
Right.
Even if I'm working on a painting, I just
Right.
make like I'm not, and I'm starting it new and fresh the next day, so nothing can be really out.
I just zone into these pictures. They're all started with grids, which necessarily abstracts each of the images. And I try to get into that zone and playing the music and trying to get into that
So
space.
let me ask you something about your work.
Sure.
Because that's what we're here to talk about.
Okay, thanks, Ross.
I mean, we're talking about this painting, which I like a lot, but I've liked all your work. So this idea of the American dream, is that what all your work has encompassed, or is that just a
Since 2000.
section of it, the kind of story you're telling?
Right.
But, I mean,
So it started in really...
you did a painting of Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, Ross has always been a supporter. He's so incredible and generous, and I'm very honored to be your friend. But a friend of mine, Randy Ray, who actually shows at my gallery now, Karma, introduced us. He was one of Ross's assistants. And Ross came in and rescued, he would buy a painting when we needed the money the most, even though he didn't know it, and we could eat for a week. This series really started in 2000 with 9/11. We were living in Soho, my husband and I, and we heard the plane fly overhead. We saw the news happen. I was actually teaching at NYU that day. I walked out on Spring Street in Thompson, and I saw the hole in the building, and I went to the classroom. I said, you guys, I don't know what's going on. It was 9 a.m. We were all in shock, but let's go and draw this thing. We went out to Washington.
You went to draw it?
Yeah, in Washington
That's
Square
so
Park.
funny.
But as they opened up their sketchbook, the first tower fell. And so all the adults in the park started screaming and crying. The kids were great, and they were hugging the kid, each other and the adults. I said, okay, go home, call your parents, let them know it's okay. But since that moment, I didn't want to do Bush's bad paintings, of W in that era. I wanted to do things that made me feel optimistic, made me feel good, made work that, hopefully you could still say this, that really made America great, about the civil rights leaders.
That's really
cultural
interesting,
celebrities,
because
landscapes, and family.
I think that
and
was a
abstraction.
kind of a turning point, the Bush era, for me too.
Yeah.
It's like politics got so, I never took it personally or was particularly political. I'm still not really, but obviously everything that goes on in the world affects you.
Right.
Whether you read papers, look at TV, which I don't, or I read the papers. There's a zeitgeist. Like, for instance, now we're in a zeitgeist of cruelty. Mm-hmm. And how do you deal with that? Mm-hmm. I mean, you might not be cruel, I might not be cruel, but the general air is just reeking with cruelty and people taking advantage of each other and grifting. But the point I'm making is, when Bush became president, it was very disheartening. And I just thought, I'm not going to be able to do anything about this. But protesting, when he bombed Iraq, you go and do a demonstration, I was in London. There were 1 million people all over the world. Nothing changed.
Right.
Nothing. As an individual person, unless you are a real activist. So what do you do as an artist? And I just felt you have to go back inside. Mm-hmm. And I started doing meditation paintings. Mm-hmm. Like Tree of Life, swirling leaves that go in circles and circles and circles, and layered, layered. And I just started doing more really personal painting. My work kind of had a conceptual bent for that. Then AIDS came along. There were different things.
Yeah. I think that kind of
rupture your sense of well-being,
right.
Whether it's affecting you personally or not.
Right.
It still affects you.
Yeah, I feel that's very much the gist of the AbX people after World War II, and they were super lefty liberals. They thought, I think their work was political because they were doing something so different. The CIA supported the movement,
The problem was with them is that the CIA did support them, including Pollock, including, and actually sent them. The idea was, the propaganda was, America, they sent the work to the embassy and had shows at the embassy.
Soft power.
Big soft power, but America is the free one.
Yeah.
We let people have freedom.
Yeah.
That was the story.
Yeah.
So it kind of like, when you get like power involved and politics involved, it could so easily get usurped. And that's happened again and again.
Well, I think this work has never been undermined really, and the transcendent qualities of it haven't been able to make it qualify.
Well, it outlasts everything
Yeah.
except itself.
Yeah, that's right. And I think a lot of that's from the painterly verve and emotional feeling that could be in painting. For me, I'm doing my iconscapes, I'm doing my representational paintings. I love political art, but I always tell my students, like, political art's hard because if it's too political, it loses its artfulness. If it's too artful, sometimes it loses its politics. And ultimately, for me, it's about putting images out there that make me feel good while I'm painting them to hopefully bring hope.
I would just
to
say
different
being an
people.
artist in and of itself is a political act.
For sure. Oh yeah.
So,
we aren't passive consumers.
The work you make, what?
We aren't passive consumers. We're putting things out there in the world to exist.
Well, we
beyond us.
also are passive consumers too.
Yeah, sure, sure.
They get us in.
Right. Yeah, of course.
Nobody escapes.
Yeah, no.
But anyway. So what I'm asking, back to the question. So that the American Dream isn't the sum and total of your work.
No, it's where every show, it's a different chapter. Again, coming from comics, I think of this almost like a giant graphic novel. I really think about the layouts of each show, the juxtapositions, how you're having a conversation with images, like panels in a comic that tell a story that's nonlinear and not exactly specifically narrative. But then with each chapter of each show building upon one another over now 26 years, I'm hoping that this is really a recording of the dialogue of what's been happening from that point to now, where we're just barely holding on to democracy with a small
You're like
d.
a journalist.
Yeah, in a way, and just sort of living through it. And
so it's been going on for 26 years.
26 years.
Do you ever break from it?
No, not yet. Not yet. Even I've had some stuff in Europe, some shows in Europe, and even then it's about my own projection of Americana and
how was that received?
I think well, yeah. I think people are truly interested, and I hopefully we aren't everybody's enemy yet, and that people really want to know this dialogue. And I think it's just important for me to do this work because otherwise I'd be running down the street screaming, pulling out what's left of my hair. And also to remind people, about what's important, so history doesn't repeat itself, and also that these are the heroes for
history
me
is
of our
repeating
world.
itself, so you kind of lost that battle.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I love the art in the Reagan 80s. I always tell my students, oh my gosh, like painting was better than ever, music was amazing, comics were cool, and I'm hoping in this era that hopefully the groundlings making art are
because there's more urgency, and that's what I meant by ultimately it is political.
Yeah,
it becomes more urgent, even just to make something beautiful.
That's right.
That's not cruel.
That's right. That's why I tell my students, I'm like, look, just do something that's meaningful to you, that you care about, that gives you a feeling of love or peace, or if you want to actively put something out
and
there. And
hopefully somebody else will get that feeling a little bit too.
That's right. And that's all it's about. I'm like, look, just like when you're drawing dragons in your room, when your parents were, having a fight in the other room, adult artists or professional are still getting those same yayas out by following their muse and doing things that are truly edifying and meaningful to them. I think Hans Hofmann said to Lee, just make things that are meaningful to you. Like, that's all that really matters. And they're like, really? We could just do pretty paintings? I'm like, yes. You do a painting about your family.
That's what I think. It's funny because you taught at NYU.
Yeah.
I've taught at NYU for a long time. And when you ask, what are you doing? And they get a little kind of like confused. I say, you know what? When someone asks you why you're doing what you're doing, just have the guts to turn around and say, I felt like. That's the end of the crit.
That's what all these guys too would say when
I felt like, don't worry, you don't have to have a long explanation of who you are and what you think you're doing. You felt like. That's what I do. I mean, my work, I feel like, is based on my curiosity.
Right.
Sometimes I'm curious to make things that relate to landscape. I like a lot of things inner body, on the body, out of the body, in the sky, on the earth, under the earth. That's how I think. And I get curious, and I'll be painting a group of paintings about one thing, and then I'll do something in the painting. I'll say, ooh, I like that. Forget all these paintings, I want to do this now.
Yeah.
So, that keeps you engaged. And
I'm a motor mouth. I teach, so I talk too much. But honestly, all these people were geniuses. And when you hear Lee in interviews talk about her painting, she says exactly the same thing. Like, they knew exactly what they were doing. Pollock wasn't an idiot savant. Like, he was a genius, and he knew what he was doing. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they did it because they felt like it.
He wanted to do something new,
Right, yes.
crazy, and radical, and I'm sure obviously it wasn't taken seriously right away.
Right.
He couldn't sell them to save his life.
Right. Even Blue Poles was wrapped up twice before they finally sold it. So, no, but he had a vision, and he really wanted to reach, he was very philosophical, and he wanted to reach other worlds. I think
And he moved out here to get away from the noise of the city.
That's right. And the drink. And
he cleaned himself up until he wasn't, then he died.
Yeah, and Lee helped him.
Right on this street.
Mm-hmm.
I always think, if I get a car crash, I want it to be on Spriggs Fireplace Road.
Yeah, right? Hopefully you won't have anybody else in your car. Yikes.
It will be on the driver's side.
Right.
Like him.
Right.
He had a passenger in his car.
Right, yeah.
A girlfriend.
Yeah, Ruth Klingman, who survived, but then her other friend did die. She was a Holocaust survivor, believe it or not.
Ruth Klingman?
No, not Ruth, but her friend who was also in the car who died.
I didn't know there was someone else in the car.
Yeah, she was the one. So, yeah, but no, it really helped to expand his territory. Yeah, Lee really wanted to get out of New York City. Jackson had a lot of problems. He was an alcoholic since he was like an adolescent. I think he was gay. The biographers say he had a lot of homoerotic experiences and so on, and his psychiatrist would talk about it. He would end up in the Greenwich Village at 3 a.m. at the gay bars at night. So the summer before they visited here, they were in Provincetown.
Maybe he was Jackson just drunk and curious.
Yeah, all right. He was hanging out with Tennessee Williams and Tennessee Williams' boyfriends, and they were all cavorting out and coming back late at night. But anyway, he had a lot of issues that he was dealing with. But I think Lee really sobered him up, and that was when, of course, he made his great work in the barn, which allowed him to expand his territory and make these things at this scale. And Lee too. When Jackson passed, that's a picture of her in the barn. From 1956, her mom had passed, and she had chronic insomnia, and she was painting these umber paintings only at night because she didn't want to deal with color. But that was also a way that she was able to really come into her own completely.
Also, it must have had to do with grief and
of course,
a way to be dark without being dark.
Right. Well, I think for me,
it's like Earth.
For me, this was. A lot of the show is really about artistic fellowship and communication and friendship and all those conversations that you have. I think, they were wonderful really as well as lovers. And it was really about their discourse.
That's a really beautiful little painting.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's based on that famous Hans Namath picture. And this was a very conceptual show. Obviously, this is in situ. That's the actual wall that Jackson was leaning against when Hans took that picture. And so I wanted to channel their spirits in a good way. I'm not the Hollywood medium, but I really wanted to, when I came here originally, this is like being a musician recording in Sun Studios where Elvis, helped to create rock and roll. You feel the energy here. When I first came here, I just got these incredible vibrations. I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual, and I don't know where we go in the afterlife, but I do believe that spirits kind of float around, and I wanted to really pay tribute to them. And
maybe if you go in the middle, you'll find the Kooning and Pollock.
Yeah.
Between here and where I live.
Yeah, well, look, there's Pollock and there's Elaine and Bill and Jackson and Lee. And the mill is right there where David is. Maybe that's where we all are.
That would be nice.
Yeah, right. I think it's true. So, Anyway, it was so much fun doing these paintings, and really sort of from 2019, but then coming back, I did the en plein air painting. Helen Harrison gave me permission to go out here in the yard and do that painting that's in this room. I downloaded from the archives their whole music list, and I had that as my playlist as I was doing this. But it was also really fun to revisit Jackson and Lee with these 4 new paintings, the Life magazine, which really helped to make his career and start the movement. And try to, he would always say dripping was a means to an end. And so he was really trying to create those mindscapes and try to, penetrate through the drips to find those visual other worlds that were happening. That was a satiric article, was making fun of him, but obviously it transcended the satire, and he became an historic figure even in his own lifetime.
I think the final painting of this Jackson Pollock residency, you should go over to the cemetery and paint the rock.
I'll tell you, I painted Elaine's tombstone. Was the first painting I did here in 2019. I went to Green River. Yeah, I listened to her music on a little portable Bluetooth speaker, and I was like channeling her spirit and asking her for her, forgiveness and advice. Yeah. And here with these paintings, I was really, this is from the famous wedding photo. It wasn't an actual, when they got married, they just had a courthouse marriage, but I was taken the original photograph by a family friend, and he was sort of, I feel like shaking. I lost his face. Sometimes when we're painting, if the eyes aren't exactly right, you start losing the whole, so I lost his whole face. It took me days to get it back, but I felt like this deep anxiety of like Pollock, worries and so on. And I realized oh my gosh, Lee was really helping him, and he was probably trembling, giving her the flower. And trying to get that spirit across, and she was, of course, so confident and beautiful.
I'm curious, do you like, do you have more fun, or are you closer to the figurative or the more abstract parts of your painting?
I love both. Honestly, the artists love the iconscapes, and we have sold a few, but the figurative ones, it's a little harder when you're doing a show. I don't want to compromise myself, but I've always insisted on doing figurative and abstract simultaneously. But the abstractions have so much freedom because it doesn't have to look like anybody. I don't have to do a grid. I could go woo and make lines go like this. But they both have their qualities. I'm hoping, again, like the figurative painting still have abstract qualities.
The painting I have up that you saw
Yeah.
is the abstract side of a painting that's not totally abstract.
Yeah, he has a wonderful diptych of mine. I was so grateful that he got from 2004 called Lincoln Remembers. And so it has Lincoln crying, it was in the Bush era. And then, because he was a good Republican, as we all know. And then on the second panel was his cabin home from a long time ago.
It's very abstract.
It is very abstract. And I was getting very much into my Cézanne moments, leaving some of the canvas raw because the muse just left me, and really feeling it. I painted it when I first came back to New York after moving with my husband to California for a year after we were exiling ourselves from the art world. And I realized how stupid that was. I crawled back with my tail between my legs and did that painting, thinking of Andrew and our home. And
it's okay to exile yourself. You still do your work.
Yeah, well, that's what I did.
Some people need to. Some
Luckily,
people,
Right. Hopefully we could all be like Helen Frankenthaler and live on and F all the politics and just do our thing. So
exactly.
Yeah, now I live in the desert with my husband in Riverside, an hour and a half away from LA. So it's kind of like this. It's not an artist community, but I could wear my sweats and go to Costco and nobody cares, as opposed to living in Chelsea and having to dress up to go to Duane Reade. And we have 3 giant dogs and 3 cats and a parrot. I still get to have civilization by going to LA and teaching, or going to my gallery openings, and coming here and being with you guys. Karma.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, they have both places. So hopefully we could all have our cake and eat it too. But I love the community here. Yeah, we try.
Try. Sometime. Yeah. That's it.